Processing gives us three different things called stroke joins. We saw in the video on stroke caps that processing offers us three different treatments for the ends of lines. When we draw a series of lines using these different treatments, we get different results. What we're seeing here is the result of drawing many independent lines that just happen to touch one another at their endpoints. But when we draw connected lines using begin shape and end shape, processing knows that these lines are actually connected, and it can use that information to make things look even better. For example, look at the square style at the top, and notice the gaps left where the lines touch but change direction. When we use begin shape and end shape, we can fill in those gaps in three different ways. The first is to extend the gaps with straight lines until they touch, and creating little pointy bits on the outside of each corner. This is called the miter stroke join, and it's the default. If you don't like the miter, you can join lines up with round circles, just like we did with end caps, and sure enough, that's got the same name. It's called round. Finally, you can ask processing simply to clip off the parts that extend, and you get these little flat bevels, and so this style is called bevel. Notice that these three choices, miter, round, and bevel, only determine what happens between the individual line segments where they join up. At the very start and very end, the appearance is controlled by our old friend stroke cap. In this image, I'm using stroke cap's square style for the topmost and bottommost examples, and stroke cap's round style for the middle one. When you draw an object with begin shape and end shape, you can choose any style of stroke join to control how the lines join up, and any style of stroke cap to control the appearance of the free ends. Let's see this in action. So here's a sketch that draws a series of lines using begin shape and end shape, and I just have a bunch of calls to vertex. Right now, before I draw the shape, I tell processing to use just a black 1 pixel line, and here it is. But now let's draw it with a colored, say 40 or 50 pixel line. You can see that by default, we have round ends at the very beginning and end of the line, and mitered internal joints. Take a look at this joint in particular. You can see how the outer edge of the line is long and sharp and pointy, and that's the mitered edge. If you look at the other sharp corners, you'll see that they're mitered as well. Now let's change the stroke join from miter to bevel. And keep an eye on this one here, because this will show us the changes very clearly. I'm going to switch to bevel now, and you can see it's cutting off the edge of the stroke right at the edge of the line. And if you look at the other sharp corners, you'll see the same thing happening. It doesn't happen at every corner. If you look at the shallow corners, nothing is being cut off because it doesn't need to. The bevel is cutting off the part that would otherwise extend way beyond the line. Finally, I'm going to switch to the round mode. So again, keep your eyes on this joint, and I'll switch to round. And you can see it's putting a nice round curve there. Basically, it's placing a circle at the right spot to make the outside part of the line look nice and curved. And the other joints are getting the same treatment. Now, notice at the very beginning and end, we have circles. That's because the default stroke cap is round. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to go back to the mitered stroke join, and now I'm going to change the style of the end cap. So now I have a project end cap, but the internal miter hasn't changed. I can run through all of the internal. I can go through bevel and round and back to miter with the project end cap. Similarly, I can go to the square end cap. and run through all of the internals as well. So I have 9 possible combinations. I have 3 varieties of stroke cap and 3 varieties of internal line. So just so you can see what these 3 varieties look like without the little guideline, I'll turn that off. This is the miter version, this is the bevel version, and this is the round version. I tend to prefer the round version when I want a stroke to look like it was something that was drawn as a single continuous piece. I like the default miter when I want to make it clear that a stroke is the outline or path for something. But they're all useful, and they're now in your bag of tricks.